Hi, Mike Rogers from Mike Rogers Show. Today's show is going to be in English, and I'm interviewing a very famous Hollywood director named Stephen David Brooks. I'm sorry the picture's not so good, but the talk is really interesting. Check it out. So, hey, it's the Mike Rogers Show. Mike Rogers here with you, and I have with me today a very, very special guest. He's a really famous Hollywood director. He's known so many people, and he's made so many big hit movies. And wait, Stephen, please introduce yourself. Tell us everything.
That was it. Thank you. Goodbye, everybody.
So thanks for being on the show, Stephen.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm looking forward to this. I even combed my hair. See?
Oh, that's nice. And wait a minute, who's that photo behind you there?
That's my old friend Betty Davis.
The Betty Davis?
The Betty Davis. She's always looking over my shoulder.
Wow. Okay, well, before we start, tell us about your career and what you do and everything.
Well, I mean, start at the beginning. That's going to be like a 4-hour show.
Whatever, you know.
I'll give you the bullet points. Went to UCLA Film School, worked for a talent agency, quit the talent agency, became a PA at Apogee, which was a visual effects company where they did the original Star Wars effects. Ended up being a visual effects supervisor for Tobe Hooper. Eventually, Tobe Hooper hired me to adapt a Stephen King short story called The Mangler. So I became a writer and a senior director. And
Wait a second. Tobe Hooper is a very famous director, and one of the most famous films he did was Texas Chainsaw Massacre, right?
That's correct.
Wow. Did you work on that film?
No, I wasn't born yet.
You weren't born yet. Okay.
But I did see the leather face mask in Toby's house. He had the mask there,
hanging up
like on a styrofoam head. Yeah, just sort of.
That's kind of weird. Okay, so you worked with Tobe Hooper, and then what else?
Well, then after that, nobody would let me become a director, so I just forced the issue, and I had a script and found some money and made Heads and Tails, my directorial debut.
Wow, but before that, I was checking on one of these. I know.
Well, I told you I'd give you the short. That was the short version.
Okay, but I was checking on one of these internet, like they've got so many horror movie sites, and I was watching this movie called The Mangler.
Yes.
And that's a Stephen King movie, and I saw Stephen Brooks on there, and I thought, hey, is that? Yeah. There must be a lot of Stephen Brooks. Is that you?
No, that's me. That's before I was Stephen David Brooks. Yeah, that's the movie Toby hired me to write.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you have all the writing credits for that?
Shared writing credit.
What does that mean?
Well, it's sort of a not so secret amongst screenwriters that the screenwriting credit on a movie is often not reflective of who wrote the movie.
Oh.
I mean, especially when you see 3, 4, 5 writers listed, there were probably 10 or 15 or 20 who worked on it.
Yeah.
So in the case of The Mangler, I mean, I wrote the script. I worked very closely with Toby developing it. As the director, he, guides the writing. And he ended up getting a screenplay credit. And then the producer, Harry Allen Towers, who writes under the name Peter Welbeck, said, well, if Toby's getting a credit, I'm going to take a credit too. So there are 3 writers.
But he didn't write anything.
No.
Well, that kind of, that's not so happy, is it?
I know. It's showbiz. Any screenwriter who's a produced screenwriter has a similar story. It's very common.
Wow. Okay, so you did The Mangler, and that is now a horror cult classic.
Yeah, there's a new Shout Factory Blu-ray reissue where I did the commentary track that I believe is out everywhere. including Japan.
Wow. Okay, and then after that, you did Heads and Tails.
Correct.
So, and Heads and Tails, there's some news about Heads and Tails. Heads and Tails is coming out on 4G, 4K. What I don't even know what it is. What is it? 4G?
Yeah, it 4K.
4K.
Yes, it was shot on film, but back in the early 2000s, this was before HD post was really a thing. HD was just becoming popular, and there were some very crude cameras out and stuff. So I couldn't do the post, and film scanning wasn't a thing at all back then. So I did post at television resolution, even though I shot on film, and the film never looked right. So now the technology exists, and it's cheap enough that I can go back and I rescan the negative at 4,000 lines of resolution, which is what is in theaters, 4K. And I'm doing the 4K resurrection, as I call it.
Wow, and that's you're doing that for a what? DVD, Blu-ray, or?
Well, I mean, I'm gonna screen it. Maybe I'll play some festivals. It'll be coming up on the 20th anniversary of the making of the film, so maybe someone will want to do a 20th anniversary screening. We'll see.
You should ask Raindance.
I should.
Yeah, you know Elliot and everyone there, right?
Yes.
Ask them that. I bet they would take it.
Well, so it's on video now, so they have to.
And I will promise you that I will call them and I will bend their fingers.
Okay.
Tell them to take that movie.
But will you do Sandwich Board Man to sell tickets?
I will. If you guys pay for me to go to London and pay for me to stay in a cheap what do you call it? What's it called? They rent these rooms in the
Airbnb.
Yeah, Airbnb. I'm fine. I'm into it.
Except that your airfare and your lunch money and the Airbnb, that cost would quadruple.
The Airbnb.
That would quadruple the cost of the entire movie.
So this was a low budget production.
Pretty low budget, yeah.
Oh, and then after that you made a movie, and I've seen it, called Flytrap.
Yes, I actually made a short between that called Binky, which screened at Cannes and screened some other places.
Screened at Cannes?
Yeah.
Wow. So did you go to Cannes?
I did.
Well, what was that like?
Very French.
Yeah.
It was actually no, it was great. I had a great time. It was actually the most fun I've ever had at any kind of festival or market. It's really a wonderful place. Beautiful country. The coastline is beautiful, and
Really? So yeah. What year was that?
I think 2015. I'd have to look at my badge and see when my badge. I think it's 2015.
And
anyway.
So then you did Binky, and then you did Flytrap.
Correct.
Okay, so tell us about Flytrap. What kind of a movie is that?
Well, it's a science fiction movie.
Mm-hmm.
A very strange science fiction movie about a guy, a British astronomy professor, who gets trapped in this house in the San Fernando Valley. Mm-hmm. And for those of you who don't know the San Fernando Valley, it's sort of the middle class, suburban outskirts of Los Angeles. It's technically Los Angeles, but it's, endless tract houses and swimming pools and palm trees and roads, and very bleak place. and he's trapped there by these mysterious aliens who, for some reason, are all named after characters on Gilligan's Island.
Wait a minute. These aliens, are these like E.T. looking aliens? Do they look?
No, they look human.
And they have names from Gilligan's Island?
Yes.
How's that?
Well, that's part of the mystery of what's going on.
They watched Gilligan's Island to do recon on what humans were like. Is that what it is?
That's their only cultural reference. Let's put it that way.
Okay, so what's the story about?
Well, this English professor named James Pond, because his parents had a sense of humor, they named him James Pond, is captured by this woman named Marianne and her cohort Gilligan, and they won't let him escape. He's trapped in this house, so he has to figure out what they want, who they are, and how to get out. And it's really a character study between two totally mismatched people, Marianne and James Bond, and he has to try to get her to realize his plight and help him escape.
Well, so does he realize that they are aliens at the start of the movie, or what?
No, it takes a while.
It takes a while.
Yeah.
So I don't want you to spoil the ending, but how does that turn out? Good or bad? Just that's all I have to say. Good
Both.
or bad?
Both.
It turns out both.
There's an ironic ending.
So he's killed, but
No.
no. Okay, so what film festivals? For example, I know Flytrap won a lot of awards at film festivals. So where did that one screen, and what awards did you win? Like that?
Flytrap, let's see, it won Best Film at Chelsea Film Festival in New York. ECU.
That's a very famous film festival.
Yeah, it's an up-and-coming festival. It's a really nice festival right in the heart of Chelsea. ECU, the European Independent Film Festival in Paris. It's been a while, so I forget where the others were, but it's won a few others. Heads and Tails also won. It's actually a funny story. I knew nothing about film festivals. And when Heads and Tails was finished, I said, okay, I guess I'll have to enter film festivals. And like most people, I thought you just enter, and because the movie is great, they're going to screen it. That's what everyone thinks.
Yeah.
And someone suggested Dances with Films in LA. There's a pretty big LA festival. And I said, all right, I'll submit. So I submitted to Dances with Films, and I got in. Not only did I get in, but I won the audience award.
Wow.
My first festival. So I thought, wow, this is easy. So then with Flytrap, when I started submitting, I got like 20 rejections. Everybody rejected me, and I thought, oh, it's not easy. I just got lucky with Heads and Tails. Okay, now I get it.
Oh, so Heads and Tails won a bunch of awards, won Dances with Films. I've heard of Dances with Films, and you won the audience award. So exactly what is an audience award?
After each screening, the audience votes.
Oh, so this is a real award.
Yeah, literally the audience makes the decision.
Wow, so that's a feather in your cap. So after you did that, and then you made...
Actually, there was a funny story about this because the film screened. It was the last film of the festival, and it screened during the award ceremony.
Wow.
And we had a sold-out screening, and I didn't realize I had won the audience award till 2 or 3 days later. And apparently what happened at the award ceremony is they were getting up to announce the audience award. And literally somebody came running and go, no. Because the film that had won had screened earlier in the festival, but Heads and Tails got more votes. So at the last minute, they had to switch the award to Heads and Tails.
Wow.
Sort of a precursor to what happened with Moonlight and La La Land at the Oscars.
Wow.
Yeah.
So did you get a big trophy and everything for that?
I did. I got a nice big certificate.
A certificate? Well, I guess that's better than just getting a laurel. So anyway, Flytrap, Heads and Tails, those are big award winners. What is the total number of awards you won? Just give me a rough guess. Yes. 200, 300,
10, 15.
That's a lot of awards.
Yeah, because Binky won some awards too. Binky won in Monaco and some other places. So
and wait a minute, you made another short movie. I think it was called Iris or something like that.
Oh yeah. Yes, I didn't write that. I didn't write that one.
Oh, you just directed it.
Yeah, I wanted to just sort of test the waters and see how I would work with the writer, producer, star as a director. It actually it turned out not really nicely. Actually, here's another funny side story.
Yeah.
The DP of that, Bruce Allen Green, used to go to the Ukraine to shoot movies.
Mm-hmm.
And he used to do all the comedies that Vladimir Zelensky, who's now the president of Ukraine, used to make.
Right.
So Bruce is friends with the president of Ukraine because he used to shoot his movies.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I'd like to start asking you about the relationship between the director, the writer, and the actress, and do's and don'ts about that. But I want to do that in our next episode. So right now we're here with Stephen David Brooks, famous Hollywood director, writer, worked with Toby Hooper and Stephen King. Oh, wait a minute, Stephen King. You wrote for Stephen King.
Yeah, he had script.
Wait a minute. So
he had script approval on The Mangler.
So you are a Stephen King approved writer.
The first, actually.
You are the first.
The first time he did that, yes.
How many Stephen King approved writers are there?
Well, now there are probably about 750, but at the time there was one.
Wow. So wait a minute, how did that happen?
It was when Toby asked me to pitch him how I would adapt The Mangler. He said, pick up a copy of Night Shift, read The Mangler, come pitch me. So I picked up Night Shift in front of his Beverly Hills house. I'm in my car and I'm reading it. It's like 5, 6, 7 pages, short story, all told in flashback. No way to make it a movie. I couldn't think of a way. I go in, I pitched him something, and he said, oh, that's far out. He goes, I'm going to call Steve King. I'll call you in the morning. I said, all right. Next morning, Toby called and said, Steve King loved your pitch. Can you write a draft in 10 days? We'll pay you $1,500. I said, sure. Just about killed me, but I wrote a draft in 10 days. Stephen King approved it, and then they made the real deal. And what I found out was a lot of big-time Hollywood screenwriters tried to adapt the script. Stephen King hated everything they did.
Really?
So they were testing me with this 10-day draft, and Stephen King loved what I did and anointed me to be the screenwriter of The Mangler.
Wow. That's bragging rights, man. You're like the tallest scriptwriter on the block. So anyway, I'd like to come back and in our next episode talk to you about the relationship between the director, the writer, and episodes about when you directed certain movies and your funny little stories. And I also want to talk about that lady back there, because I don't believe that you were a pizza delivery boy for her. But so this is the Mike Rogers Show. We've got our guest, Stephen David Brooks, and we'll be back tomorrow with part 2 of this interview. Stay tuned.